For more than a century, Neanderthals were portrayed as primitive cave dwellers, brutish and unintelligent creatures who represented a failed stage of human evolution and were inevitably replaced by more advanced modern humans. However, decades of new discoveries in archaeology, genetics, and anthropology have completely transformed that image, revealing a far more complex and fascinating story than scientists once imagined. Today, researchers recognize Neanderthals as highly successful humans who survived for hundreds of thousands of years across Europe and Western Asia, adapting to some of the most challenging environments our planet has ever known. In many ways, the real Neanderthals were not radically different from us, and the more evidence scientists uncover, the more human they appear. Their story begins hundreds of thousands of years ago, when populations of early humans gradually spread out of Africa and established themselves across vast regions of Eurasia. Over countless generations, these populations adapted to local conditions, eventually giving rise to the group that we now know as Neanderthals, one of the closest relatives Homo sapiens would ever have. Life during the Ice Age was extraordinarily demanding, with harsh winters, dramatic climate shifts, and landscapes inhabited by some of the largest and most dangerous animals that have ever lived. To survive in this environment, Neanderthals developed strong, muscular bodies with broad chests and powerful limbs, physical adaptations that helped them conserve heat and endure the cold. Far from being simple scavengers, they became highly skilled hunters capable of tracking and killing large prey such as bison, wild horses, deer, and occasionally even mammoths. Archaeological evidence shows that Neanderthals carefully crafted specialized stone tools, selecting different techniques and materials depending on the tasks they needed to perform. These tools were used for hunting, but also for processing animal hides, preparing food, shaping wooden objects, and carrying out many of the activities required for everyday survival. They controlled fire with remarkable effectiveness, allowing them to cook food, stay warm during freezing winters, and gather together in places where social bonds could develop and strengthen. For many years, scientists assumed that Neanderthal society was relatively simple, lacking the complexity that characterized modern human communities. Yet discoveries from archaeological sites across Europe and Asia have revealed evidence suggesting that Neanderthals cooperated extensively and cared for one another in meaningful ways. Some individuals survived severe injuries that would have made hunting or gathering nearly impossible, indicating that other members of their communities provided food, protection, and long-term support. Such behavior suggests not only cooperation, but also empathy, planning, and social relationships far more sophisticated than researchers once believed possible. Evidence from several sites also indicates that Neanderthals may have intentionally buried their dead, although historians and archaeologists continue to debate the exact significance of these discoveries. If these burials were indeed deliberate, they may represent some of the earliest expressions of symbolic thought and concern for individuals beyond death. Even more intriguing are discoveries of pigments, decorative objects, and markings that suggest Neanderthals may have engaged in forms of symbolic behavior traditionally associated only with modern humans. While the evidence remains incomplete, it increasingly appears that Neanderthals possessed rich mental lives and were capable of abstract thinking in ways that would have once seemed impossible. Another question that continues to fascinate scientists is whether Neanderthals possessed language comparable to our own and how they communicated within their communities. Although no direct evidence of speech survives, anatomical features and genetic studies strongly suggest that Neanderthals possessed at least some capacity for complex spoken communication. If this interpretation is correct, conversations, stories, and shared knowledge may have been passed from generation to generation long before recorded history began. Around 70,000 years ago, modern humans began expanding from Africa into regions already occupied by Neanderthal populations, setting the stage for one of the most important encounters in human history. For decades, researchers imagined a simple narrative in which modern humans rapidly displaced Neanderthals through superior intelligence or technology. The reality now appears to have been considerably more complicated, involving long periods of coexistence, interaction, and cultural exchange between the two groups. Perhaps the most surprising discovery came from genetics, which revealed that Neanderthals and modern humans interbred on multiple occasions throughout their shared history. As a result, billions of people living today carry small percentages of Neanderthal DNA inherited from encounters that occurred tens of thousands of years ago. This means that Neanderthals did not disappear entirely, because fragments of their genetic legacy continue to survive within humanity itself. Yet despite their adaptability, intelligence, and long history of success, Neanderthal populations gradually vanished approximately 40,000 years ago. Exactly why they disappeared remains one of the greatest unanswered questions in the study of human evolution and prehistoric life. Some researchers believe that rapid climate fluctuations placed enormous pressure on Neanderthal populations already living near the limits of survival. Others argue that competition with expanding groups of Homo sapiens reduced access to resources and fragmented Neanderthal communities over time. Additional theories point toward disease, demographic decline, cultural differences, or a combination of multiple factors acting simultaneously across thousands of years. Whatever the cause, their disappearance marked the end of a remarkable human lineage that had survived and adapted across Eurasia for hundreds of millennia. What makes the Neanderthal story so compelling is that it challenges many assumptions about what it means to be human and how unique our species truly is. For most of prehistory, Homo sapiens shared the world with other human species, each pursuing its own evolutionary path while facing similar challenges and opportunities. Among those relatives, Neanderthals stand out not because they failed, but because they came remarkably close to achieving many of the same successes we associate with ourselves. In future episodes, we will explore their daily lives, their technology, their relationship with modern humans, and the latest discoveries that continue to reshape our understanding of their world. We will also examine how genetic research, archaeological evidence, and new scientific techniques are helping reveal details that remained hidden for tens of thousands of years. Because the real story of the Neanderthals is not the story of primitive creatures lost to history, but the story of intelligent humans whose lives were intertwined with our own in ways we are only beginning to understand. And as scientists continue to uncover new evidence, the line separating them from us becomes increasingly difficult to draw.